Good evening, everybody. My name is Harriet Walker. I also work in EY's economic advisory practice along with Peter. As Peter mentioned, EY also publishes biannual regional economic forecasts. Our previous forecast considered the Thames Valley. As Peter also mentioned, the next forecast will include Oxford. My presentation summarises some highlights from these forecasts and briefly considers the implications for the local economy. So the table on this slide shows employment growth and GVA growth across the 12 regions in 2014 and 2015. The chart on the left shows annual GVA growth over the past 3 years and for the next 3 years for each of the regions. London was clearly the fastest growing part of the UK economy in 2015. The capital is strongly linked into and highly competitive within the global economy, which continues to grow significantly faster than the UK economy. GDP increased by 3.4% in 2015, compared with 2.3% for the UK. The other 3 southern English regions, South East, South West and the East of England, also outperformed the rest of the UK in 2015. In contrast, we attribute less than 1% growth to the North East, reflecting its peripheral location, but also its high reliance on manufactured exports, problematic given the strong pound. Explicit government policy interventions aren't a major factor in explaining 2015 relative growth performance, but Crossrail construction has probably given a further boost to London and the South East economy. As well as the exchange rate, which will have hurt other regions with large manufacturing sectors, the pattern of growth is likely to be affected by the strength of consumer demand. That will have benefited service sectors more than the manufacturers because of their lower exposure to imports. This explains the focus of growth in the south of the country, which have a larger concentration on these sectors. Going forward to 2018, our forecasts predict London will continue to outperform with average annual growth of around 3%. Its neighbours in the east of England and the south east will also outperform the UK average, but less decisively. So we forecast that GVA in the knowledge sectors will grow by about 13% over the next 3 years, which translates into a strong performance for the Thames Valley, which specialises in these areas. This slide considers employment in the Thames Valley in terms of the sectors in the region relative to the size of these sectors across the rest of the South East. As I mentioned, high value add sectors such as ICT and professional services, i.e. the knowledge sectors, are larger compared to the broader region. Sectors such as human health and social work, construction and retail, which are traditionally more labour-intensive industries, lower value add, are relatively smaller in the Thames Valley than the rest of the South East. The chart on the opposite side of the slide shows the expected growth in employment areas in the Thames Valley versus the rest of the South East across these different sectors. It shows that for high value add sectors, the Thames Valley is expected to experience slightly higher growth rates in the next 5 years compared to the rest of the South East. Strong growth in other service activities and admin and support services will be drawn in to support these specialised industries. Overall admin is expected to shrink in the UK by 1%, but that doesn't follow within the Thames Valley. Growth in real estate activities, construction, etc. are forecast to grow in the region as investment starts to play out in these areas. The relative wealth of the region and highly disposable income will support growth in arts, entertainment and other recreational activity as the economy continues to prosper. So the region homes a relatively large working age population when compared to the rest of the South East, Greater London and indeed the UK. However, the number of economically active, i.e. those between the ages of 18 and 65 in the region, follows the general trend of decline, despite recent increases in migration into the area. As the chart on the other side shows, average weekly earnings are higher in the Thames Valley than for the rest of the South East and Greater London. And workplace versus residence earnings in the area are broadly aligned. For the rest of the South East, residence earnings are about £50 less per week due to the higher percentage of people that commute into London for work. In the Thames Valley, earnings are retained in the region. These average figures don't show things like the distribution of income within the region, and like most other areas, there are a large number of people in the Thames Valley work in the lower income sectors such as retail, public services, hospitality, and they won't necessarily benefit for the broad wealth across the region. However, as the previous slide shows, there's actually less dependence on these sectors for employment than the rest of the South East and the UK more generally. So this slide really takes the analysis from the previous slide and presents it slightly differently. It's a heat map that shows average workplace-based earnings compared across the different parts of the South East. It really just confirms the fact that the Thames Valley is the region with the highest workplace-based earnings within the South East, which shows the concentration of wealth in the area. It doesn't take into account residence-based earnings, which if mapped show a much higher concentration in home counties, in particular Surrey, which would overtake Thames Valley as the highest earnings. So as well as our regional forecast, EY publishes attractiveness surveys for the UK, for Europe and other regions. These surveys examine the attractiveness of a particular region or country as an investment destination. The two-step methodology within these reports analyses both the reality and the perception of FDI in the respective country or region. Findings are based on representative panels of international and local opinion leaders and decision makers in both public and private sector. On the whole, London's share of projects in the UK seems to be on the decline, and also the investment criteria that businesses use when considering investment in the regional locations has shifted slightly. The availability and quality of local transport infrastructure has actually increased in its importance from being stated as a most important factor last year's 25%, now that's grown to 29%. The availability and skills of local workforce as an importance factor has decreased slightly, but it remains high at 21%. So this chart it sets out FDI into the Thames Valley, South East and Greater London in terms of different sectors. It shows that 56% fell into the knowledge sectors and 31% into manufacturing, which really shows that not only is the region doing well in terms of high value add industries, but it's fairly diverse in terms of the investment that it's attracting. The survey also identified, just backing up our forecasts for growth within the sectors, that 22% of respondents believe that ICT and professional services combined will continue to drive economic growth in the region, in the UK, sorry. So what next for the Thames Valley? All of the evidence suggests that the Thames Valley offers an attractive business, employment and living environment. It's attracted highly skilled workers, which has supported its economic success, as well as its ability to build on strong links with its academic institutions, which are closely linked to development of these knowledge sectors. As it continues to develop and grow, it may be the victim of its own success in that it experiences constraints in terms of available skilled labour, the constraints on land and development, and also overstretched transport infrastructure, which we previously discussed as being an important driver for investment into the region. Thank you very much.